some other basic understanding on other areas. This is actually, I mean, having these skills is not enough. You have to prove this. So it's always good that if you have proof to, prove that you have some in-depth understanding in a particular framework, and then going forward, you have, or rather you can gain other skills that are needed for the job description. So for an example, if you're applying for a React based project, okay, lights went off. It's the new country that we are living in. So I guess hope you guys are not interrupted by that. So basically, imagine you are applying for a job with React qualifications. Okay, and you don't have any React qualifications, but if you have worked with a framework, maybe JavaScript framework or a TypeScript framework, or you haven't maybe have worked in a framework, but you know TypeScript and you know JavaScript, that is fine. Because knowing a framework or specific technology that we actually don't really focus on, we actually look for those things to see if you are a good match. But even if you don't know these things, we have other methods to see if you are a good fit, right? So this is something that you need to have. Basically, if I'm going more deep into this, imagine because we as interviewers we are not looking for like industry expert, because you are fresh graduates, and we just look for basics like object-oriented concepts, algorithms, data structures, and hopefully code quality and agile and communication skills and databases and cloud related stuff. So if you have those skills, basic skills that you are, most of these skills you can gain from the university. But things like code quality, agile practices, communication skills, that you need to have on your own. So if you have those things, you are a good fit. Because even I remember when I was doing my first interview for the post of software engineer, I remember I screwed up these object-oriented concepts. That was like the um, worst day of my life. I was like, they asked what is inheritance, and I gave them an example, and then what was the question was what is polymorphism, and then I could not remember what is polymorphism. That those things can happen even if you are an expert on object-oriented concepts. I am not, but there can be people. But in that situation, you might, stumble upon rocks. So that is definitely going to happen. So in that cases, what we have to do is keep calm and maintain your integrity, and answer the question based on the situation. Right. So those things are mainly what I need to focus. I mean, when it comes to technical knowledge. But even if you say, okay, I know object-oriented concepts, that is going to be a very understatement, because sometimes they may ask some pretty basic questions like what is object-oriented programming. And then what happens is you say, okay, object-oriented concepts, object-oriented programming is creating a class, and then then afterwards using that class, creating objects and, doing operations. That is not a good answer, okay? So you have to research into these things. Basics is what I mean by basics. It is that you have to prove that you know what is object-oriented concepts. Because reading out from a script, or reading or remembering a line or two, and speaking about that in the interview, that is not going to work. Because we know, since we are doing these sessions and all, and also we know that most of the undergraduates are looking into these object oriented concepts before an interview. We know that you guys are remembering this stuff. but what you have to have as is an understanding. So let me like ask you few things that you think you might know, but you really don't. So can you explain the concept of a constructor? Can you specify the accessibility modifier for a method inside an interface? Is it possible for a class to inherit the constructor of its base class? Why do you need polymorphism and how it is used? What is compile time polymorphism and how it is different from runtime? What is object oriented programming? These kind of questions you might get asked in the interview. So it is not always what is inheritance, what is polymorphism, right? So you have to prepare for these things. Most of these things are, I mean, in the university curriculum, but if you don't know, you should definitely go ahead and see. So at this point, you must be asking what is the meaning of life and why are you here? I will tell you in a second. So imagine this is something I mean, another question, another type of questions that you will get in terms of technical knowledge. So here also you will get uh, sort of a code segment and you will be asked what to do. So to answer these questions, you have to know what is the meaning of this static block. What does it do? And if you don't know that, then you're screwed. But basically what happens is if you don't know something like this, you can always take some time and expect I mean, we as interviewers know that you don't know this, so we are asking this just to see how you are reacting to this kind of situation, right? I'll talk about that a little bit later. So first of all, do your homework and be prepared. This is really easy. These things can be learned. This is not something that you bring up when you are born. I mean, some people are, but most of us as humans, we don't, we don't know object-oriented concepts from, kindergarten. So we are learning these things. So if you don't know these things, that means you have an issue in your learning process. Then you should probably address that before the interview. And it is really easy to, get to know these things and answer a question because interview is something it's basically a screening process, right? So we are checking whether you guys are up to date and you are a good fit, because most of the time we are copying code from the internet, even as this level as senior software engineers, right? So what we have to have is that thinking pattern to solve problems that the real world people are having, right? So if you have that thinking pattern, getting to the solution is really easy. So tools like computer programming languages, frameworks, and patterns, um, other kinds of tools that we have as software engineers, algorithms, data structures, those are just tools to solve that problem, right? So if you are a good problem solver, then you are not limited by these things, right? So this can be learned. So try to learn something if you already don't have any technical knowledge. Okay, so what if I don't have technical skills? This is something that we see lots in lot of CVs, not here at IT faculty. Actually, we are interviewing people from all over the country. So what we see is they don't have sort of technical knowledge. Here, what I'm referring to as technical knowledge is the basic understanding of a backend, a front end, and a database, and how all those three are connected. Maybe APIs, maybe HTTP protocols. Likewise, if you don't have that sort of a knowledge, maybe go to YouTube and search for a crash course in a framework that you would really like to learn, and then you can push that code to GitHub and showcase that GitHub URL in the CV. That is enough, right? So if you don't have it, and if you haven't done anything in level 2 projects, in level 4 research, maybe, because research is not really a software project. So if you have done any software development, that is good. But if you haven't, then your CV might be lacking these external projects, right? So you should do that, because what we really look for is how you have solved real world problems. right? So we basically, you might already know because you have gone to these internship interviews. We actually want to know what are the projects that you have done, and what are the problems that you face in the project, and what kind of solutions that you have given. Those kind of questions that we ask. Now the reason for that is to understand how you guys are, solving real world problems. So imagine you have a food waste problem in an area. Maybe you have developed some sort of a mobile application to resolve that issue. So that is a really good project, right? So something like that. All your software projects are like that. So you can take some examples from that, or maybe if your internship project is really good, something that you did maybe ended up in production, and thousands of users are using it at the moment while you are doing your internship. That is something that you can speak very freely and you can take pride on it. So those kind of things you can talk about when there are many questions. You can bring this up mainly when we ask, tell us about a project, you can do this. So we are not interested in a project and what is the framework that you did it in. We actually want to know how actually you go ahead and resolved the issue. Maybe you had a problem with sending emails, and then how did you overcome this issue, right? Those kind of things we actually care about. So when you're answering, try to focus on those areas next time. So those are the things that we really want to hear. Okay. So when it comes to this level 2 project, because I'm assuming most of you guys have done it. If you are going to bring this one as an example in the interview, probably you should know these things, because these are the things that we really, asking from you guys. Uh, because when we ask this, some people not in our faculty, I once had a candidate who talked about this problem background, right? He or she went like uh, 15 minutes talking about history of the problem and likewise. So you don't have to do that. Mainly talk about these things, high level architecture and teamwork, all those things that you typically talk about. And even if you are bringing that up, any project, maybe level 2 or internship or level 4, you should know what is an API, how you handle the authorization, authentication, databases, problems faced and solutions, design patterns, exception handling, cloud services, those kind of things you need to know. Only thing that you did is editing HTML and writing JavaScript. That is not going to be, that would work in a, in a perfect world, but in a real world, we actually get thousands of CVs, and if we see some other person have used cloud technologies and he knows like how to host a database in a cloud service provider like AWS, and you don't, probably if we are not hiring 10 to 15 people and we are only hiring like 1 or 2 people, then that person might get the chance, right? So that is something that you need to keep in mind. And even if you haven't used cloud services, that is fine, because you can, talk about other things. Mainly, even if you, the main focus here is you have a specific area that you have worked on in the interview, right? Sorry, in the project, right? So maybe you did the login and the authorization and authentication. So then in that case, you have to know what is how you handle this authentication, authorization. Those are two different things. And JWT, the JSON Web Tokens, and how you handle the session expirations and all, like everything like that. And those things you need to know. So basically, try to go deep into this area that you did, and and learn about those things if you haven't implemented something like that, because those things get asked. Definitely, if you said, okay, I did the login part of the project, we will definitely ask the authentication, authorization, what is the hashing algorithm that you used. Likewise, those ready for those kind of questions from mainly. So if you know these things, if you if you go ahead and learn about these things, if you haven't already, you should be able to answer questions like this, right? What is the project that you are most proud of? Tell me about a time when you went above and beyond your expected task while working. How did your education prepare for this job? When it is appropriate to denormalize database design? Okay, this is something really, I mean, most of you guys don't know. So you already know that how to normalize a database, but there are some places where we need to denormalize a database as well. So if you don't know, I mean, scenarios like that, you probably need to look that up. Likewise, these kind of things you will get asked, but most of the time you don't have an answer for these things. But that's okay. What we look for is your approach to, resolve, or rather your approach to answer these questions, because uh, even if you don't know something, even and you have done your project properly, and you have learned something out of your project, level 2 or internship or any project, then you have things to talk about, right? So if you like going blank every time we ask you a question regarding anything, then we know that you haven't done anything, right? So going forward, what happens is your experience will grow, right? From at this point, you don't have any experience, but as you go ahead and work in this role for like 2 to 3 years, you will get experience, and future roles will demand this experience rather than looking into your technology stack and all. And then going forward, they will demand your leadership skills, and how your customer handling, and how you write code, maybe how you I mean, maybe how you maintain the quality of your code. Likewise, going forward, experience is what matters. So just something to keep in mind. But at this stage, only experience you have is the internship. So make sure you market that. And if even when they ask you this question, okay, what tell us about a project or something like that, or maybe any other project related to this past work experience, you should bring that up and talk about that even further. So key takeaways from this is, interviewers, we as interviewers ask technical questions to learn your skill levels and how you process information, and prepare to discuss your approach and explain your reasoning when we ask that, and if necessary, ask for a moment to collect your thoughts, ask clarifying questions if needed. So this last point is really important, because even in a get-go, you don't say, I don't know the answer. Maybe what you can do is ask questions back from the interviewer. That really shows that you are interested, and that actually says a lot about you, that you have good listening skills and all. Likewise, you should, try to be a professional in that situation, because as seniors like us, we always, I mean, face things that we don't know, right? And what happens is we sort of try to learn that, and if not, we try to get help from other people. That is something that you might already know if you have done your internship as well. So in this kind of scenarios, interview is not a place to, like A levels, where you going to vomit everything that you have learned for past 13 years. That is not the case. We are trying to see if you are a good fit for the culture, to the company, and to the role. So what you need to prove is that you are a good fit, and you don't have to prove that you know React. You don't have to prove that you know some other framework. But as I mentioned earlier, having the basic skills like object-oriented databases, algorithms, data structures, that is a must. That we don't have to tell you, that you should know, because if I ask what is the big O notation of this algorithm, you should tell that, right? I mean, because those are very basic things. Everybody knows that. Even if a person who never haven't done any project in their lifetime knows that, because you should. Otherwise, what is the point of going to the university, right? So that is the key takeaways from this section. I'll come back. So until then, my friend Tiruni will take you to how to create a good first impression. Over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen first. Okay. So you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. To be honest, actually, today I clean up my machine so that there's no much tabs open here. So it's clean and clear for you guys. Otherwise, this is like a can't like hard to find something here. Okay.
We
So
all we all been there. Really.
yeah. Okay then. So the first impression, like Nishan said, the technical knowledge that you have to, your skill set, that's you must improve that. You should have it. But having just the technical knowledge is not enough. But you need to have some. You need to give the impression, right? So why we need this first impression? Some people say you have to have a good impression, the first impression, then you will be able to easily get into your job. Some people say, why do we need a first impression? We are tech guys, we know how to code, we know everything, we know OOP concepts and everything. If we are good at that, we don't need the first impression. uh, I don't think that is right, because since you all are like fresh graduates, you all have done your internship only, you haven't worked in industry, you haven't proven yourself, right, for the industry. So you haven't shown your skills. If you have, like if somebody is there who had been like is a kind of a celebrity guy, that maybe like he doesn't need the first impression, but for you guys you need to have this, right? Okay. So where do you guys think uh, when we need to have this first impression? At what point we need to build this? Anyone? Are you guys there? Can you guys hear me? I feel like
Yes.
I'm talking to myself. This will be more like more interactive session, right? For me, I need others to speak. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
Sahan. What do you
Or
think?
go
Or
ahead and
oh,
answer the question.
anyone? Yeah.
I feel like it's the moment we send the CV, like
Hmm.
before this, the first time you guys see us and get to know about us. So I feel like that's the first impression. Like,
Can you like repeat that again, Paul?
it's the moment we send the CVs, like when you guys before the meeting or online call.
Hmm. Yeah. At the moment we send the CVs, right? Any other opinions? Uh, okay, I'll take that as an answer. Yeah, that's true. At the moment you send your CVs, that's the first impression, right? Your CV is the first thing that you are sending out. So it should be up to a level where the CV shortlisting guys can be attracted. So you need to have some things there. So I'm not going to talk about that because this is not about CV writing. So that's the first thing. After that, once you're like shortlisted, and then I think that's where the place you have to give the first impression. At the moment you start your email thread with the company's talent acquisition team, so they are starting sending emails, then how you respond for that email, the language you're using, that is one point. And the next one is at the moment you enter the company premises. So earlier we had this on-site interviews inside the company, but now it's more like online calls. But gradually that's again going to the physical meetings these days. So at the moment you enter the company premises, so you have to give the first impression, because you don't know who is like the people you meet in the company, you don't know who are they, right? So that may be a person who is going to interview you, or maybe not. Then at the moment you start the video call, if it is an online call, at the moment you start, that's the place you are going to give the first great impression, right? And that's not the only place, but during the whole interview time until you leave the call, you can build up the first great impression. Okay, so you have to keep that in your mind. Yeah. Okay. How can you make a great first impression? So people may say it's just attire. That when we are like thinking about first impression, the first thing we comes to our mind is the attire. Yes, of course, that should be. And the way you speak, right? If you're speaking with your interviewers like in a like aggressive way, that's not a good way, right? And then the way you respond, right? So, and show some interest and be positive and confident. So when it's come to attire, that covers everything. The way you look, the way you walk, everything. So if you're going for a physical meeting, an interview, you have to dress very well in a formal manner. Don't wear like luminous colors or glittery clothes. Just it should be formal, and that should be cool for the eyes. If you're wearing all red, that won't be like, that is like not not a proper way of wearing for an interview. So you should wear cool colors. And for the boys, yes, you should have a haircut, or you should make your hair in a proper way. You should wear like in a formal way, wearing shoes and everything, keeping everything clean and tidy. For the girls, yeah, you should wear the like you can wear any clothes which is fall into formal category, and you can wear a nice uh, makeup if you want, and properly dress up yourself. That is one thing. And the way you respond, just imagine when you're entering for an interview, you open the door and just make the first eye contact with the interviewers, right? So that is very important. If you like, just imagine if I talk to you like this, right? That doesn't make any feel, right? I'm not looking at you, but you have to create the great eye contact to impress them, right? Like to show them that you are confident enough. And then the body language, right? The body language, like how you sit, how you walk, and when you're speaking, you have to use some gestures and postures. So those things there should be. If not, they feel like they can track you from your body language. Are you afraid of things? Are you telling lies? You don't you have any enough knowledge or something like that? They can track that from your body language. So we need to consider about these things. Then the way you speak is like you should wear a smile on your face, even if I know it's very hard. For my first interview, I remember I'm like I'm trying my best to have a smile. And just after the interview, I think, Nishana, you are the first person I met, right? So you know what happened, right? I was like blushed, and I'm like, I'm like an alien, right?
Yeah,
So
smoke coming out of your ears and
yeah, so those kind of things can happen, but you have to like manage it. You have to have a light smile on your face when you're speaking with the interviewers. And and when you are speaking, when you're answering a question, you need to keep an eye contact with every panel member inside the room. Even if it is in the online platform, you just have to look at the camera and speak. Otherwise it's like not nice, right? And when you're using gestures and postures, you need to have it in a appropriate way. So don't go for like doing this and that. Have a like proper management of gestures and postures. Yeah. And the way you speak, this is something like uh, I mentioned, you have to have a formal language. So when you are going with the interview, like when you come to at the middle of the interview, you will feel like they are like friendly, but still you need to maintain a formal way of speaking. Use the proper language. It there's no matter, like we are not native English speakers, so you can do mistakes, but the thing you are trying to communicate should be properly understandable. So you should pay much attention on that, and show some interest. What is this? Show some interest in the sense, when you're talking with a person, when you're talking about a topic, you should ask some questions related to that topic to show some interest. I mean, if you are really impressed and you have an interest on that topic, you will ask questions. So we, like, the person on the other side knows that this person is really interested in this area. So when you're answering questions, when you're like in with during the whole interview period, you should have interest. You should try to answer every question. Even if you don't know, you should show something like, yeah, I'm interested in this. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn this area. So that is something. Yeah, and be positive and confident. What is this be positive? So some people tell like being like having this be positive thing, it's not a good thing, but I feel like it's a positive thing, because when you're interviewing, like for me, from my experience, in my job interview, I was actually asked a question about inner joint, right? So by mistake, with the excitement I had, I have given the bad explanation for that. Actually the answer was wrong, but when the interviewer told me the correct answer, I got to know, oh, I screwed up everything, and I like, okay, what I have to do. What I said was, yeah, I mixed the things. These are the things, and I explained entire joining part using pictures, right, with a quick drawing. So that is kind of a positive thinking, right? You are like positive. And the other one is, if you don't know anything, like just they ask a question and you don't have any experience in that area, you can say, yeah, I don't have any experience on that area, but I'm willing to learn that. If you give me some time, I can follow up some materials and give the answer, right? And be confident. When you're giving an answer, don't show any shaky expressions. You have to be confident. So even if you don't like, you don't know the exact answer, but when you are giving your answer, you should manage you should give it in a confident manner, right? Okay, next. Okay, now we know what is great first impression, and now let's talk about what should you do to give the great first impression, right? So this is something that we all should do before an interview. So be prepared with the technical showcasing. Even if you have the great first impression, if you are not good with technical showcasing, then you won't be selected. So that is the first thing you have to be confident about, and do a research about the company, right? You're going to the technologies they are using, the culture inside the company, and bit of a history, what are the awards they have achieved, a little bit. And just try to contact maybe your seniors inside that company and get to know about what's the culture inside the company, how they evaluate people, what's going on inside the company, just to have a quick knowledge. Then it will be easy for you to tackle the technical questions, and also having this great first impression. And the JD, it's the job description. If you can find the job description for the post you're applying from that particular company, that will be a great help for you guys to get ready with the technical questions as well. So even if you can't find the job description for the particular companies, but you know So as you are like in software engineering, the responsibilities you have to carried out. So do a bit of research on these areas and get ready with that. For example, for the 99X here, the culture is open culture. So anyone can talk to anyone, anyone can gather knowledge from any team. There's no like hierarchy, it's flat hierarchy. So those kind of things will be like really helpful for you. And uh, once you are in the interview, don't tell sir or madam. So I think you guys know about this because you all have been in your internships. So try to talk with their names. Uh, that will be really great, right? Because most of the software companies, they don't have this hierarchy. Okay, the third one, practice for the known questions. So without the technical questions, there are some questions like introduction to yourself and about the projects you have done, about the extracurricular activities, and if you're a blogger, the things inside the blog posts you have, those things like practice for those questions, right? The common questions we have. So going forward, you will be able to know those. So like practice very well, especially for the introduction part, because that is something very important to have a great first impression, right? And practice with your friend. This is to have the confidence and have like to make the interview environment like it's not a new thing for you. So practice it with your friends. So I hope Nishan, do you remember how we practice for the interviews when we are into the internships, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I think that's why we all were able to achieve everything with one go, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So yes. Before I go to the other section, I would like to ask some questions. All right. If you have any questions related to this great first impression, just ask now. No questions, crystal clear. Okay. I take it as a good sign because I'm so much good in speaking, right? Speaking and convincing. Okay. This is how to answer common questions, right? So as we all know, there are a lot of common questions. I hope you have been following this for your internship as well, internship interviews as well. There are common uh, areas that will be covered in every interview, right? So one is SWOT, that is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities you have, and threats, right? Mostly this strengths and weaknesses will be tested, right, inside the interview. And the attitude, this is something like we cannot tell from where we get this attitude, right? There's no particular question for this, but the way you answer, the way you behave, the way you having the conversation with the interview panel, everything includes this attitude, right? uh, okay, then the leadership. So you will be given some questions that will identify your leadership, and also you will be questioned about the group projects you have been working on, the problems you had inside the project group, and how you tackle that. Likewise, those areas will be covered here. And the most important part is your future plan. So this is something they measure you, how much knowledge you have on the career path of this IT field, and what's your next plan. So this is a small tip here. If you're going for like, there are some people, I'm not going to stay in one company like more than 5 years, right? I'm going to change my company, the working company in every 2 years. there are some plans, right? So don't expose those kind of plans, but try to say like, I will stay here for some time, right? Then the IQ, they will test your IQ. I hope these questions are available in online, so you can just go through some of them, and ඒ වෙලාවට පොඩ්ඩක් ටිකිරි මොලේ දාලා වැඩ කරන්න තියෙනවා, right? Then the extracurricular activities. If you have participated in any hackathons, any other club events or sports, so they will be asking some questions about this. Especially in 99x, they really love to have people who can sing, who can like tech enthusiasts, and the people who are doing blogging, like those kind of people, they love to have inside their company. And yeah, your knowledge on your career path, right? So just have a like, if you are into software engineering path, just have a like little idea about how you can proceed with your career, right? Just a little knowledge on that. And if you're into QA side or the management side, project management side, then have a good idea about that as well. Yeah, those are the main areas that will be questions, that there will be common questions. And most importantly, I'm missing one thing here, that is your introduction part. That is the common part, right? Okay, I have some common questions mentioned here, so you can get ready with these things. Yeah, we would like to know about you. That is the introduction part. So here I have seen some people are telling about where they live, how many siblings they have. Likewise, I think here, when you're giving an introduction to yourself, they need to know about what kind of a person you are, what you are, what are your skills, right? What have you been like, what have you not highlighted in your CV that should be told here, right? So if you are like a music enthusiast, then you can tell about that here, right? So maybe it will take 3 to 4 minutes to give you explanation, but that would be fine, right? But make sure that you cover the most important parts about you, right? So why you should be hired to this company should be inside this introduction part, right? The next common question is, what are your weaknesses? How do you overcome that? So if somebody asks, what are your weaknesses? Don't tell that I don't want to work late nights and I fell asleep. I fall asleep in daytime. Don't say like that. Those like kind of those things. But try to say something. It could be a weakness of you, but it should be something that is not like a disadvantage for others. For example, you can just imagine for me, the one weakness is, if I am given a responsibility, I need to make sure that everything is done by my hand, right? So even if I given the like delegate the work, I always try to see whether they have been working properly. That is one kind of a weakness, but when it's come to the outcome, that is like an advantage for the entire company. So you have to tell your weaknesses in a proper way, like in a better way, right? Not the weaknesses that we have, right? Falling sleepy, feeling sleepy, likewise, right? And you have to come up with a good answer to overcome that as well. Next one, yeah, this is the most important question. How do you see yourself in 5 years, maybe 3 years? You should have a proper answer for this, right? You can say, I would like to be yeah, I would like to be a tech lead in 5 years, right? In my interview, that is my internship interview, I was asked about this question, and my answer was, I would like to see myself as an associate tech lead in 99x, right? So when I gave that answer in my internship interview, right? So yeah, this question is kind of tricky because this question can cover everywhere, like your higher studies, the knowledge on career path, and your confidence, and your like how you plan your life. So be careful about with this question and come up with a good answer. Yeah, this is another common question. So if you are a team lead, there are several questions that can be asked. So you have to get ready with the things, with the experience you have when you are an intern and when you are working with a group of people. So in this question, they will be evaluate about your leadership skills and decision making skills, right? Yeah, this one, do you have a plan for the future, further studies, in which area? Just have a quick overview about your future. Yeah, what do you think about current situation of country? These type of questions can be asked, and you should be careful when you are giving the answers. It shouldn't be politically biased. It should be a general answer about how you feel about the country. Yeah, and this one, how do you got to know about the company? So you can give the answer about like from a friend or something like that. You can get ready for this as well. And last, I think, why did you apply for our company? For this, you can use the knowledge you have about the company history and everything, the culture and everything. Have a like, you can make another good impression on this as well. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, you can ask it in the chat. And I'm yeah, Nishan, you can take back the mic.
Okay. Yeah. So common mistakes. Let me like build upon what Tiruni actually said, because not answering those questions, not having that technical knowledge, not having a good first impression is the common mistake that we all see. Because when we like see undergraduates in career fairs and even in these online meetings, those are the common mistakes, and those are the things that make you lose the job role, right? So as Steven mentioned, you should always research your role before going to the company and not giving a weakness. You know, some people, as Steven said, say uh, disadvantages going to have a bad impact on the job role that you are, I mean, that we are looking for. So even if you say like I'm falling sleepy very easily, that is really going to impact the job role, because we don't want software engineers sleeping on their chairs. And so some people actually say I don't have any weaknesses as well. So that is like very poor answer, right? So maybe come up with a good weakness that actually don't impact the job role. And as Thierry mentioned, for body language, not going to touch that. But showing up late, that is also a common mistake. Sometimes even in the online interviews that we have, people are not logging in time, and not knowing what's on a CV is something else, because maybe you have written one or two lines of C++ and then you put C++ as one of the programming languages. And if we, I mean, before asking a question in C++, we are asking, you have put C++ in your CV, and up to what extent have you learned C++? And then you say, sorry, okay, I have worked, I mean, I have written this couple of lines in this project to do, I mean, do some sort of a basic image processing. Maybe you have written a loop, for loop in C++, and then that is not a qualification that you need to put in your CV, because that is a very basic thing that we have done in C++. Those kinds of things you should know. And sometimes when we ask like questions from your CV itself, from maybe uh, like an extracurricular activity probably, then some people actually don't know that they have put that into the CV, right? That is also very bad situation. And sometimes we see, as I mentioned earlier, people are talking too long when we ask a question. We actually don't want all those background information about anything. When we ask a question, if you know the answer, just get right into it and answer the question directly. And if you don't know the answer, you can sort of ask uh, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, or maybe again ask 1 or 2 questions from the interviewer to get to clarify the question. Maybe that you can do, but don't like take too long, or don't talk too little about about a question, right? And when it comes to the end of the interview, we ask like, if you have any questions, you can ask from us. Then the interviewee says, I don't have any questions. All the questions I had was answered by you guys, something like that. I had like 2 people saying that sort of an answer to me. So that is not also going to be a good answer. So when I say good answer, these are the metrics that showcases your attitude, right? Most of the time, because these kind of questions tell a lot about you, mainly your learnability, your listening skills, your beliefs, your belief system. Likewise, these kind of things tell us a lot about you, how you behave in a society, right? So you guys know that, since even in, even a faculty, we have like 260 70 people nowadays. I guess it's more than 300. In a situation like that, there are many people coming from many areas in the country. So managing all those people is really hard, right? So, because as Thierry said, some people have different political views, some people have different religious views, likewise. So not getting those things mixed up with the work life, it is a really good quality that we are actually looking for. And these sort of questions and answers are giving that insight, right? And another common mistake that we see is demonstrating doubt, fear, irritation, hesitation, uncertainty. Likewise, these things, maybe you are in fear, maybe you are maybe you are doubtful about the thing that you said, but don't demonstrate that. You don't say, okay, I'm really, I don't know, actually I gave the right answer. um, I'm not uh, really certain about this answer that I have given. Don't say things like that. Answer with confidence, and make sure that you say, I haven't touched upon those things in a very long time. Maybe if I had time to, research about this, I'll probably learn it and give you a proper answer. But at the moment, I may not be able to, give the correct answer. But from top of my head, this is what I can think of, and I'm very confident about the things that I said. Likewise, you can, don't demonstrate that you are in fear. Sometimes it is very important in a physical interview, right? Because in a physical interview, you don't have like maybe in a online interview, you might have all those sticky notes stick to the uh, monitor, or rather the uh, wall behind the camera. So in a physical interview, that is not going to work. So we are going to catch every one of you guys who are, cheating on interviews, probably. So that is why this is really important, that you do your homework and go, I mean, learn about things that you don't know and talk about things that you only know, and avoid all those rubbish that you really don't care about. As an example, if in a um, in level 2 project, maybe you had a mobile application, but you haven't worked on the mobile application, then don't talk about the mobile application, right? That is because if you talk about that, then you will ask then they will ask about that one as well. Then you have, what you have to say is, I haven't worked on that, I only worked on this. That is a waste of time, right? Yours and the interviewers. So talk about things that you only know. Probably they will ask all those questions that I mentioned earlier related to basic stuff. Then only, I mean, that is going to be a very relaxed interview, because you are not going to die. That is something, those are, I mean, 2 or 3 people, they are asking you questions and you are answering them. And I mean, eventually you will die, but not at the interview probably. And so as Sitirna mentioned, at the entrance and introduction, handshake, everything matters, right? So I hope you guys do that, and not ready to give enough examples. So imagine like, so let me like elaborate this with a job description. So here is a job description for, I mean, requirements for a software engineer. So you can see they are asking few things. Experience, actually, we don't really care about at this moment, because from fresh graduates, we don't ask for experience, as I said. But if you have worked with these technologies, those comes with project work, level 2 project, and ability to code software according to published standard. That is also coming from your level 2 project and maybe from your internship skills. So make sure you talk about these things before going to the interview. Try to find a job description published by that company and make sure you go through that, probably, I mean, and get to know about the things that they really want to ask. I mean, the things that I really want from an interviewee. And so, as an example, take this the point, uh, the last point, before the last point, experience in using Telerik components, Kendo UI, and deploying blah blah blah, right? So that maybe you don't have that experience. So what you need to do is read about these things, because these days, what most popular framework is React, right? So your level 2 project or internship or none of those things actually covered React, let's assume, right? And then what you can do is read about React, maybe try to do a basic project in React, maybe a calculator or something, and understand what are the main focus points of React, because all these frameworks actually solves a problem, common problem, right? That is why we have frameworks. So imagine what is the difference between Angular and React. If you look for that one, and if you know, first of all, you have to know what is the point of having frameworks, and after you get the answer for that questions, you should compare and contrast all those frameworks, and you get to know, okay, React has these kind of advantages. That is why people are using React, and it is getting more popular over the years. And I mean, more popular over Angular maybe, or Vue.js. So that is the reason. So you have to understand what makes React a differentiator when we are comparing with the other frameworks. Similarly, when if there are something like, if you even if you don't have React maybe learned while you are doing your level 2 project, then you should research about it and learn about that differentiator. And then you can answer, okay, I don't know React, but what I can say is React has these qualities, and due to these qualities, it is popular. I'm planning to learn. Likewise, you can say, I mean, construct an answer like that. So it is really important. So evidence in terms of that is coming from your level 2 project, and what you did in your leisure time. Probably you did, I mean, probably you were on Netflix or something, but you can easily go through a project in YouTube, a course in YouTube, and learn something. And I mean, also from the answers that you give, we are looking for these things. So what my point is about here is, when you are answering questions like the ones that Tiruni demonstrated, what you have to say is, I mean, what you have to do is answer those questions with examples. Once I had something, did you so? I mean, you saw that when Tiruni talks, she always takes examples from her previous life, right? So she talks about how she handled her internship, her interview, right? So likewise, you can demonstrate that. I mean, bring up those examples in your, I mean, maybe in your one of your courses, maybe one of your projects, right? Maybe in one of your project groups in the faculty, bring those up, and then that actually shows that you have some sort of a potential you have worked with, because we are not looking at your life with CCTV or something every day to see how you are going to socialize and what you are doing when you are, I mean, what you are doing in your leisure times, right? So those things actually tells a lot about you. So here is something, I'm just bringing this up just to show you there are things called job descriptions, which are like the requirements that they ask for the job. So here's something similar. This is for an QA. So here you can say, so a quality assurance engineer should also have critical thinking and problem solving skills, not only writing documents. So you should have that if you don't have it, and knowledge and experience in web and mobile testing. So this is comes from your level 2 project or other internship. If you don't have any experience in testing this stuff, then you should definitely read about that and try to come up with a good answer when they ask about your experience. Um, these days, quality assurance engineers are really looking into test automation as well. So if you are planning to go as a quality assurance engineer, try to learn test automation in one of the frameworks that I mean, test automation can be done. Mostly in .NET we use MS Test, NUnit likewise, and maybe Selenium, that is for UI test automation. And likewise, you can research about those things. There is a JavaScript library called Playwright, I think. So likewise, those things you should know, and you should have at least maybe write one or two automated test cases for a website publicly available. Maybe try to log into Facebook using an automated test case. I'm not advising that because that is actually violation of Facebook terms and conditions, but you get the idea, right? Because we don't have websites to test. Right. So likewise, you should, research about the role that you're going to work, and then have the necessary skills to do that. And this is something, again, another job description with respect to UX engineers. Here you can see they are asking for competency in Adobe Creative Suite or similar industry level software system to wireframe and design UIs like Figma, Sketch, and InVision, etc. So these kind of things you should know. If you don't know, you can, as I mentioned earlier, go ahead and learn these things, because if they ask this, saying that I don't have any experience is, I mean, not going to reflect your character or your learnability. If you say, okay, 1 month back I learned Figma, and I have sketched these UIs, maybe something, I mean, I have seen some UX engineers doing revamps of existing UIs. Like you might have already seen these things, like say for an example, take YouTube mobile application, and you don't like the way the YouTube mobile application is designed. And what you can do is design your own user interface for YouTube, and you can publish that on Dribble or Behance or something. And then you can say that in the interview if you are going for a UX engineer. All right. So those things you have to keep in mind. So yeah, as I mentioned, lack of proof. You should maintain a portfolio with the work you have done, and not just UIs, including the frameworks, technologies, responsibilities, problems faced, solutions you have provided. Portfolio website. If you don't know how to create a portfolio website, you can do what you can do is have a, website in Dribble or Behance. So similar platforms, there are many in the internet. You can publish them to that. Even if you are a developer, you can publish them to GitHub, right? So if you are a QA engineer, you can also have a website demonstrating the automated test cases that you have written. Likewise, you can do that. So it is all about preparation. So all Tiruni and I are here saying is you have to be prepared. Unless you are not going to land a good position. So here, so take this question as an example. What motivates you? Actually, when we ask this, what we really want is what is your passion, what drives you to success, and why are you think this job is a good fit for you. Likewise, you can destructure these questions and try to understand why we are asking that, because we don't want to get to know you and do a marriage proposal, right? We just want to understand you, and because we have customers working overseas, we have customers working locally, and this is like a multi-million dollar business. And if you are not a good fit for the role, what happens is your credibility gets damaged, and companies profit gets damaged, right? So that is why we actually, there are, so all the questions that Tiruni said and all those other common questions, they are there for test you. So that is why you need to have a, I mean, as Tiruni said, be prepared for all these common sort of questions, and most importantly, understand why we ask those things. So if you know that, and then you can construct, if you know that, then you can construct a good answer. And as an example, so imagine we ask, how do you handle stress? Now, when we ask that, what you have to say, you should have a good answer for that one, because uh, we want the type of people who can handle stress, right? So that is why we are asking how you handle stress, because we don't want to know how you are handling stress just to send you a friend request over Facebook. We want to know how you are handling stress, because you are going to be stressed when this kind of production bugs maybe. Imagine you are going to go to the New Year vacation, and some customer some customer is facing a, I mean, maybe they can't they can't create maybe do a main functionality in the application, and they might report a bug. And then what you're going to do about this? So those kinds of things can happen. They are not very common. They are really rare, maybe 1 or 2 cases, or zero for the most part. But those things happen. That is why this, I mean, uh, this industry is, I mean, really, I mean, this is one of the industries that that gets paid very high, and you all know that, right? So that is one of the reasons that these things are there. So you should know why we ask those questions, and you have to be prepared. Um, so there are many ways to handle stress. You might have your own way. So you can come up with a solution. Probably say, okay, I have worked with these kind of stressful situations in the past, and then you can bring up an example. As I mentioned earlier, once I had this kind of a problem, and then I faced it, and this is how I resolved it. Likewise, you can do. And yeah, so when you don't know an answer, I mentioned this before as well, try to buy some time, and say, okay, let me think about that for a moment, and maybe you can ask some questions from the interviewer, so that you can understand what is the question better. Most importantly, stay calm, and because not getting one question correctly is not going to determine whether you are getting the role or not, right? So Tiruni mentioned one of her scenarios. I mentioned one of my experiences. So if they like looked into how I gave the answer for the object-oriented concepts and how Tiruni gave answer to her SQL joins question, we are not going to be here, right? We must be, uh, we must be, asking for 5 rupees in buses probably these days. I mean, these days, obviously, we are asking for money from other people due to this to pay tax, I guess. Anyway, so what not to say? Avoid saying I don't know, probably. Because don't saying that actually not going to come up with I mean demonstrate that you are a good uh, candidate, because when you don't know something, there are things that you can do to learn that, right? So just go ahead with and answer that, because everybody, no one knows everything, right? So also don't go too far. Some questions are really tricky that you might think, okay, answering really like for like 5 to 10 minutes is going to impress us. That is not going to work. And don't take it too seriously. I mean, real responses, you can sometimes you have to, come up with a creative answer. We are not saying those answers are fake answers. They are creative answers, because you should know that everybody, even I fell sleep while working. That is not going to affect my ability to get the work done, reach the goal, right? So I might feel sleepy around 2 or 3 p.m. every day after the lunch, but that doesn't affect my day-to-day goals and company goals and then project goals likewise, and my personal goals. So if you if you know how to manage that, then you can give a creative answer for your weakness, not saying I fell asleep very easily. That is not a good weakness. So try to come up with a better answer, because you also have this nice I mean very other weaknesses that doesn't affect the job role, as I mentioned earlier. So we actually want to see unrehearsed answers by forcing unexpected questions, like the one I mentioned earlier with respect to object-oriented concepts, maybe. And what you have to do probably is talk it through, ask questions, and try to understand it. And if you don't really know it, you should communicate it directly. And you should, try to approach the problem with the knowledge that you're already having. And at the end of the day, don't get frustrated. I mean, you actually failed one question, but you should have all these other questions that you have given very good answers to object-oriented concepts, databases, algorithms, data structures, likewise. So you should not be frustrated about one question, right? Maybe that is a learning opportunity for you. So that is why, as Tibri mentioned, we need to have this personal SWOT analysis. So here you should try to do this. If you have a weakness, try to convert that into a strength, and then if that is not going to work, try to convert that into an opportunity. So as an example, I find it hard to say no to people. That is one of that could be one of your weakness, and then what you can do is make it a strength. Because so knowing that you have this weakness gives you an opportunity to learn about your personality, and then you have to address that issue that you are having, right? And then what is the strength is, maybe you are trying to always assess your capacity before saying yes to everything. Maybe you are saying yes to that production bug, you are saying yes to that merge conflict. I will resolve it, I will do the documentation, I will do this other improvement, right? So before doing that, try to assess your capacity. If you don't know I mean your working hours, if you're not flexible with that, you always try, you will always say no, okay, I don't have time to do that, but what I can do is these things, and everything else, I guess you will have to put somebody else in charge for those things. Likewise, you can try to come up with different kind of uh, I mean different ways to address your weaknesses, right? So do that. Okay, so this section I'm going to talk about when you are given the chance to ask a question from the interviewer, you should ask like at least 2 or 3 smart questions. So as an example, I will give you few examples. What is the only thing, sorry, what is the one thing that I can do in this role to help your business succeed? Right, so you can ask something like that. This actually shows that you are interested in the company, that you really want the job, and that you have really, and that you have a passion to drive this company to success, and you want to be a part of that process, right? So come up with few more questions like this. You can ask 2 or 3, and that will be enough, right? And another thing is, can you tell me more about the team that I will be a part of in this role? And what are the plans for the company over next 5 to 10 years? And what advices should you give to the successful candidate who wants to excel in this role? And what is your favorite thing about working for this company? So you can ask this from the interviewer. So he or she might be there for like 5 to 10 years at the moment, so you can ask them and, and sorry, and then you can get an understanding on the culture and why those people are staying in the company. Sorry. Yeah, so another question is, what are the training and progression opportunities in the company? So this will give you an insight into how they train employees, how they are treating the new employees. If a person don't know something, how they are, addressing that. Likewise, you can understand these things. Okay, so at the end of the interview, what you can also do is ask a question based on what the interviewer said. That actually says that you have listened all the way through. So when you ask questions, you can say, okay, you mentioned this thing, can you like elaborate more on that, please? So something like, you mentioned that you are selling your products to Scandinavian region. So what are the biggest strengths that you see, or other advantages of doing that? Maybe likewise, you can ask questions from the interviewer that says you have listened to them. That actually demonstrate your active listening skills. So likewise, come up with these kind of questions. Other than that, what you have to have is um, the technical skills and all those first impression. uh, what you have to do is, as Theory mentioned, try to smile all the way through, and then it is okay. So these days also, something we had actually back in the day in 1990s is something called a phone interview. So they ask questions over the phone, and based on that also they are shortlisting people. That is also a way of interviewing. I don't know whether you guys have any sort of an experience, but that is also something that you get to know in the maybe coming month or two. So they are also, just like for a physical interview, you have to be prepared. They will tell you in advance you will be getting a phone interview, and then what you have to do is, again, have a copy of your CV in your hand, and then be prepared for answering those questions as you are in a physical interview itself. And so what do you think makes the best impression after the interview? So one thing is, one impression that you always get is, you have went to the university for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Please hire me. That is one impression that we see. Another impression that we see is, I have worked with these technologies and I have proof I can be trusted to get the work done. So this is another impression that we are seeing. So it is your choice. What is the impression that you would like to convey in an interview? So it is also all about interview. We are not giving you a written exam or something, right? It is always, it's the things that you say, right? Kata tamai, right? Okay. So if you already don't have any technical skills, I will drive attention to this Chinese proverb, because why not? We are soon going to be a colony of China. So here's a proverb from them. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. and the second best time is now. So you can start today, and you can excel on your role, and then hopefully we will be meeting you guys just like this in the future, probably. Yeah. So I guess that is what all we have to say. If you guys have any questions, you can ask.
I'm sure all of us would agree that we were able to gain a lot of valuable information, giving us a clear sight and a guidance to face interview confidently. And thank you once again, Nishan Ayya and Tiruni Akka. Now I invite Power to propose the word of thanks.
Thank you, Sahan. So Nishanaya and Tirunaka, it was an amazing and interesting session, as we hoped and excited to have from the beginning. So it was really a privilege to and a great opportunity to get your honest opinion while sharing your personal experience with us. Yes, we do some silly mistakes, can say, that we regret after the interview, that we could have done better if we were focused on those areas and way that Nishanaya told, like that having a good comprehension about the fundamentals, and like Tirunaka said about factors that can have huge impact on our first impression. So beside everything, you shared very valuable insight on serious topics like salary negotiation and stress management. So those topics tips will definitely be helpful to face our interviews in future. So on behalf of Intex and the faculty, I would like to convey our gratitude to both of you for conducting this session amidst so busy schedules. And we wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you very much for everybody for joining today's session. Thank you. Over to you, Sahan.
Okay, thank you, Power, and thank you, Nishanaya and Tirunaka. And with that, it's time to wrap up the session for today. But do stay tuned with Intex for future sessions and to advocate your career paths. Once again, yeah, thank you all.